Dasinga never returned to the church, but Decay started asking people who lived with them to go, and one of Dasinga's roommates started going to Decay's church regularly with her. Dasinga had already lost her once, and when they came back, they would be talking and laughing, insecurities and jealousy kicked in, and he created a scene in front of them. She was not only embarrassed but mad. She packed her bags and left. Later on, that day, the roommate approached him. All this time, you were talking about her. I would never try anything with her, plus we would talk about you more than the church. Embarrassed already, Dasinga said. I'm sorry, but when you lose someone once and see that person laughing and joking with someone else, I was jealous. I overreacted. I don't like that church she goes to, and I have to let her go. I'll fight with anybody, but I will never try to fight God. She's in his hands, especially now, 'cause I done fucked up. Months went by, and still no Decay. Depression kicked in again, and Dasinga started drinking. One night, he was lying in bed, unaware if he was sleeping. The room was white and covered with clouds. He heard a voice, Dasinga. He stood up, and in front of him was a partition or booth with a tall man wearing all white sitting down. Have a seat, the man said. The man began speaking to Dasinga, telling him things he needed to hear, but Dasinga did not hear a word he was saying. Dasinga cried, I will always be a servant for Sabaoth, and that will never be any doubt, but will I ever see Decay again? Dasinga asked. The man said. We will talk about that later, and he continued to talk to Dasinga, but Dasinga was not paying any attention. The man stopped and looked at Dasinga. You will see Decay again, but it will be a while from now. Dasinga got excited. How long? The man, frustrated, looked at Dasinga. You'll see her again. But the words you just ignored shall not be repeated. And the room turned back to normal. Dasinga raised in his bed and looked around, then laid back down and drifted off to sleep. Months passed, and Edwin saw that Dasinga was very knowledgeable about technology and encouraged him to attend college. And he signed up a few weeks later and started attending Atlanta Metropolitan College for Electronic Technology, but had to transfer back to Southern University in Shreveport, Louisiana, to finish. He called Decay from the train station a few months before starting school, crying, I realized that you have to see God on your own. It cannot be forced. You will see God, and God will see you, but I feel I won't be there when he does, and I, through the help of God, have created a perfect woman, but for another man. It was the last time he heard from her until after those 30 years, of course, but he graduated from college in 2001 with 3 degrees in electronic technology, computer science, and in engineering and moved back to Atlanta. He searched for her for a month, trying to remember where her old college roommate lived, but he forgot her name and couldn't remember where she lived. He also went to Ron's last known address but had no luck. Sad and broken-hearted, he just went to work at Scottish Rite Hospital and left his dreams behind him. Mammalean was crying, and Cush had tears in his eyes as well. Whatever happened to them? How was Justin born if they parted ways? Mammalean wiped the tears from her eyes and smiled. It was about 25 years later. Dasinga had married a woman who didn't respect him and had cheated on him more times than one can count. They had 2 girls, Nafisa and Shartati, and they separated, leaving Dasinga to raise the 2 girls on his own. He had done one of those searches for Decay on the internet and found her. She had moved back home to St. Thomas, after her father had died. They had not seen or heard from one another in 30 years. Decay had no children after all these years and was told that she couldn't, but by a miracle, they had a son, and in honor of his first son, he had never really had the chance to know. They named him Justin, and without that Justin, none of us would be here today. He is our descendant.